All right, hello everyone. Welcome to this week's weekly watch list. It is May 18th, 2025. Just going to jump right into it here. Got a decent amount of names on our list. Not all of them are, exactly ready to go, but just going to give you the full list that I'm looking at. So, in alphabetical order, first up we have AVAL. This is a stock that corrected 32%, which is pretty good, and now it's sporting a pivot that's about 7% deep. Now, normally this is too wide, 7%. That's like on the near the max range, 7-8%. I don't want to see it any wider than that. But given that this is a $3 stock, it's perfect. Anything under $5, usually you're going to see those wider pivots just because of the nature of the low stock. But 7% on a $3 stock, that's pretty good. So looking at this one, the only downside is it's a little thin, 123K shares per day, and it's a bank. But I am seeing a lot of bank stocks setting up this week. I don't know how it's going to turn out with the recent, Moody's downgrade of the U.S. credit, but we'll see. Next on the list is BBAR. This is another bank stock here. Corrected 44%, setting up this cheat area, and I'm looking at this as a pullback buy. So over Friday's high, 2167, I'm looking to enter there, and this one looks spot on similar to SUPV, another bank stock. I mean, look at that. It's basically the same stock. So I'm looking at a pullback buy here as well. But yeah, it's the same stock. So we're looking for a group move here. Next up, CGNT. Decent pivot here, peak to trough. We're looking at about 6.3%. So this is tight. Volume is pretty low compared to the 50-day average. So that looks good. CHKP checkpoint. This was on my list last week. Didn't really do much. The pivot's still the same here. Still looking at it around this area. It leaked off a little bit, but not by much. So even if you take this new pivot low, it's still only 4.73%. So this pivot low is going to be your new stop, and that's tight enough. CPS, this is a high tight flag here. From these lows here, it ran up 160%, and it's only corrected 11.27%. So this is super tight. Volume came way in, drying up. This looks perfect. There's no pivot just yet. So I mean, even if this might keep going lower, but if we get a good close on Monday here, I might try to take this as a pullback buy, just to try to get a low entry here. CrowdStrike, CRWD. This one's building out nicely here. Nice double bottom cup and handle. The current handle right here is about 10.5%. If you take this one, it's about 5.82. I actually entered this on Friday as a pullback buy here. But this one can still build out. I'm expecting this, maybe it comes up here and stalls out again. I hate doing this on the fly. This is why I usually just have these drawings pre-made because I don't want to waste your time. Maybe 2x speed this. But something like this, that would look even better here. So I entered here, and then I would add to my position on the breakout. That one looks really good. Cybersecurity, those stocks are still setting up for a group move. CSGS, this one, I forget what this is. Data processing. Cup and handle, it did run up the right side from the low cheat here. So, there's your low cheat. It gapped, didn't really give you much of a chance to get on. You could have chased it at the open. But now it's just setting up another pivot here in the handle, which is only about under 3%. So this is super tight for a $65 stock. That one looks good. DAVE, Dave. This is a potential power play here. Ran up 191%. Now, you're probably looking at this and thinking like, this is underdeveloped. It didn't even flag out yet. And I'm completely aware. This one might still just keep running. This might be just a couple day pause. So if you want to buy these new high breakouts and just use like a low a day a stop, I think that's decent risk here. Ideally, you want to wait at least 6 days. I know William O'Neill and Mark Minervini, they both say that I think it's like a few weeks, like 3 to 4 weeks you want to wait. But I do, if you look at edit, back in 2020. Whoops. That one emerged after just 6 days here. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days, and then it went. So you only need 6 days. So that's why I'm watching Dave. Um, this one, if it just goes sideways for 4 more days, then I think that's viable and that's ready. I see the volume coming down here. That's really good. So this one's high on my watch. DGX, shorter base here. It looks a little bit wide. Your pivot is these new high breakouts here. It looks wide, but if you measure it, it's 4.5% down to these pivot lows. So you could even put your stop a little bit below the 50-day just to give it some room. And even there, I mean, you're at 5.5%. So this one's super tight, pretty liquid, 1.4% or 1.4 million. DXPE, this is another cheat here. You see we had another contraction, quick shakeout. That shakeout was 20%. Now we're looking at this pivot. That's about 5.5%. So this one looks good. Overhead supply is way back here in February. eBay actually did break out on Friday. I was looking at this. I had this on my second tier list, and to the pivot lows here is about 5%. So we'll see. If you bought the breakout, you're currently up not even 0.5%. So it's still buyable where it is, depending on where it opens tomorrow. But that one looks good. FFIV, this is the other cybersecurity F5 company. So now I was looking at this here as a low cheat, broke out on the 8th, and now it's just creating another pivot here, another cheat area. So that one's definitely viable. It's under 2% or just about 2% risk here. So you want to talk about risk reward, 2%. That's beautiful. IBIT, this is the Bitcoin ETF, ran up the right side here. Never really gave you a chance to get on over here or over here. Is a big gap being messy, but now you're looking at a 4.5% pivot here. So this looks ripe. I know Bitcoin futures are up this weekend, so this might just gap and go, depending on how much it gaps. Your buy point is here at 59.75. So I mean that gives you, if you don't want to chase up more than 2%, so that puts you around $61. Any higher than $61, you just got to let it go. Don't chase it. IDCC, it's another base here. I'm looking at this as a pullback buy over Friday's high. I used the previous day's low. That's about a 2.3% stop here. Just your normal cup and handle. LOPE, this is a high handle here. So here's your base, and this is just sitting right on top of it. So if you measure that pivot, it's about 3.7%, which is pretty tight there. OSIS, this is another high handle. You had this cheat area here, but you couldn't get on because it gapped up, came all the way back in. I mean, if you wanted to buy it on the lows here, that's pushing it. But yeah, and then it was building out this other pivot here, but then gapped again. Now it's building out another pivot. So let's see if it actually opens inside and allows you to get in, or it might just gap and go again. Who knows? PGR, decent base here, a few contractions. You're looking at a 4.6% stop in this pivot here, using the low of 512, but this might even get tighter for the next couple days and give you an even tighter stop. Palantir, kind of a high handle here. I mean, if you miss this cheat entry here and never really gave you another spot to get on, just kind of ran up, got hit on earnings, ran up again. I was expecting this to build out along these highs here, but instead it's just building a pivot sitting right on top of it. So looking at this for an entry here, you're looking at about under 4% for your pivot here. I wouldn't, you don't have to necessarily wait for new highs to break over this day. So that one looks good there. PRCH, this is another Low priced power play, high tight flag ran up 145%, only corrected 15%. So this one very viable. I would take it over this area here, and you're looking at about a little too wide here, still 12%. So if this just goes, just use a mathematical 5%, maybe a low a day. But I this one is a little bit sketchy just because of this area right here. Normally you want your high tight flags to come from a period of dormancy. So, if this stock stayed down here throughout that time period, it would look better. But since it did, run up, a lot of people don't measure the period of dormancy, but it ran up here 94%, right? And then from this peak back down to here, it fell 45%. So not very dormant at all. This is actually a pretty active stock, and you could even call it volatile. But from these lows here, in less than 8 weeks, it did run up 140%. So we will take that into consideration and potentially play it. This is a application software stock. SGHC, decent base here. It corrected about 34%, which isn't too bad. Gave you a pivot here to hop on, then just ran up, and now putting in a pullback buy. So over 876-ish, and you're looking at Friday's low as your stop for about 5.5%. That one looks good. Spotify, this was on the list last week. I thought it was just going to gap up on Monday, but instead it gapped down, to my surprise. So I'm just looking at this to continue building out a handle here. I mean, the current handle is about 9.5% peak to trough, so might need another contraction. Maybe we pull back and it gives you like a 5% pivot here, but this one's not quite ready yet. It might be ready, midweek, end of week. SUPV, we went over that one. That was the bank stock pullback buy. UGI, this is another high handle here. You had your base here. I don't think this was viable here on the 8th, just because this is just wedging up here. This wasn't much of a pivot, not something I would buy anyway. But now it's just putting in that high handle or cap pattern, whatever you want to call it. And it did, try to poke its head out on Friday. So this is viable here. WMB, let me back out of here. This is a larger base, but we're looking at it through this pivot here. And that's going to give you a 6, almost 7% stop down to these lows here. So decently tight, big base going all the way back to November. That one looks good. And then finally, XPEV. This is the old meme stock from 2020. Putting in a low cheat here, it did correct 40%. And now just putting in your VCP here. You got one contraction, 2, 3, 4. So you got 4 contractions here just in the low cheat alone, and you're looking at about a 6.5% stop here in this pivot. So that one is viable there. And that's all I got. We'll see how this week turns out, and good luck, everybody.